There exists a special place in my heart for moves that are not only strong, but a tad bit ridiculous as well. This is where Ordovis' Greatsword comes in. On first glance, you have a nice looking weapon that has some hefty armor that drops in complement, but as soon as you hold down that Ash of War button, you can spin up what makes the Greatsword quite special indeed. We can find it in the Ariza hero's grave, to the southeast of the main entrance of Lindell. Advance past the chariots, and reach that boss room where you have a duo fight with Crucible Knights. Take them both out, and the weapon and armor set is yours. The moveset is the typical Greatsword moveset. We have the unfortunate light attacks, where the Tarnished smashes the weapon on the ground, and the sweeping heavy attacks, which are nice to drag down poise a bit in between our Ash of War use. I hesitate to use the word anime as an adjective, but when discussing this Ash of War, there are a few better descriptors for it. Ordovis' Vortex is undoubtedly the highlight of the weapon. It is chargeable, and the uncharged variant is fast, and can fit in more attack windows than you may believe. But of course, we want to use that slower, fully charged variant as much as we can. By equipping the Godfrey icon and the Shard of Alexander, this move will inflict a few thousand points of damage every single time we land it. Even if we miss with the Greatsword, there is a multi-hit AoE that resonates out from the impact site. And if we fully connect with the charged move, it deals, according to the wiki, 66 poise damage. I have no way of testing this as I am a Sony sister, but that is even more damage than Square Off. And it certainly checks out with the amount of poise breaks I was getting at max New Game Plus. The move gives us a degree of hyper armor and only costs 15 FP, which is a more than fair price for something as flashy and powerful as Ordovis' Vortex. We are tanky and have a 25 faith investment, so we gotta use Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. Golden Vow gives us 15% more damage and 10% more damage negation, and Flame Grant Me Strength will give us some stamina regen and a 20% boost to physical damage. This is a split physical and holy damage weapon, but the strength scaling is better than the faith scaling, and the majority of our damage will be physical. For our playstyle, use the buffs in descending duration order, that being the Flask, Golden Vow, then Flame Grant Me Strength. In between there, you might want to throw in a Starlight Shard or drink a blue flask after your buffs. The FP cost of the Ash is cheap, but in these higher New Game Pluses, you may need more than one blue bar to finish off a fight. I used a Starlight Shard maybe every other fight, and I had one blue flask on me at all times, and that was more than enough for my Vortex needs. For the question of the week, I want to ask you, what is the most over-the-top Ash of War in the game? I have been a bit desensitized to it now, but Elden Ring has a lot of crazy moves when you step back and think about it. There may be a few crazier than this, but what comes to my mind immediately is Thundercloud form. The Dragon King's Cragblade was the first heavy thrusting sword I used, and that Ash of War did not disappoint. Now that I think of it a bit more, Euphoria Vortex may be higher on the insane scale, but I'll leave it at that. What do you think is the most over the top? As always, this video is sponsored by my book, Follow the Gleam. It is the best way to support this channel. Link in the description below. And as of now, I'm gonna start uploading writing-related videos on my second channel. Link to that also down below if that's something you're interested in. And as always, for more Souls-like and build videos like this, every single Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, be sure to like and subscribe to TheJerseySide. The talismans for the build were the Godfrey icon and the Shard of Alexander. They power up the fully charged Ash of War and the Ash of War in general, respectively, the two-headed turtle talisman for better stamina regeneration, and the Dragon Crest Great Shield for 20% physical damage negation. I alternated between 4 different tiers throughout the playthrough. The Holy Shroud and Crack tier for 20% more holy damage, even though most of our damage is physical. The Bloodsucking Crack tier for a 20% boost to all damage at the cost of health drain. And for later in the run to be even more tanky, I used the Opaline Hard tier for 15% more damage negation, and the Crimson Burst Crystal tier for a steady health regen. Our stats for the build were 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 35 Endurance, 80 Strength, so we can get the most damage out of our Ash of War. If this was a moveset-based build, we could always use 54 Strength, but the two-handed boost will not apply to the Ash of War. At least 13 Dexterity to use the weapon, and 25 Faith to use Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. Yeah, it's about time I gave this thing a try. As a wilder main in Night Rain, I've used this sword several times, and part of me thought I already made a video on it, but I have not until now. I went 2 weeks in a row without using the L2 button, so I needed Ordovis's Vortex. It was also nice to have a bit of an easier run this week, as other things have been grabbing my interest. I've been reading a lot of interesting books, and am finally making real progress in that Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough that I have wanted to finish ever since release, so I can finally check that game off the bucket list.